Hi everyone. So this is the BitMex trading platform. I'll come back to this in a little bit, but first I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to this particular point in time. I arrived in Hong Kong about 7 years ago. I'm a PR, woo. And I started working for Deutsche Bank here in Hong Kong. I was an exchange-traded fund market maker on the Hong Kong and Singapore Stock Exchange. I worked for DB for about 3 years, and then was lucky enough to get hired over into Citibank to do the same thing. So I did index arbitrage on different equity markets across Asia, and also ran all of the ETF trading for Citibank. And then in 2013, I got fired. And I was like, oh great, I have time on my hands to do something different. I always wanted to start my own business. I had no idea what that business would be. And so I just started looking around at all the interesting things that I didn't have time to look at while I was working at the bank. And I came across Bitcoin. If you remember, in April 2013, the price went from about, I think, $3 to $250 in the first quarter of 2013. And I remember reading about Bitcoin on some financial blogs, and I came back to it. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So I read the white paper by Satoshi Nakamoto, persons who created the protocol, and I thought, this is really cool. I want to get involved. And then I just started doing research on how can I actually trade this digital token. So I researched all the largest exchanges at the time. You might have heard of MTGOX, which is the famous Japanese exchange that blew up with $500 million of customer money. And I was like, okay, I can trade on MTGOX. What about, how do you short Bitcoin? How do you trade on leverage? How do you trade futures contracts? All the types of things that I was used to trading while I was at the bank, I was searching for them in Bitcoin. And it happened upon this super shady Russian exchange. It was run by two dudes. You had no idea who they were. There was an email address and a piece of shit HTML website that you could trade futures on for Bitcoin US dollar. I was like, awesome, I'm trading here. So I went to the bank and I had to make a decision. Where do I send my first, couple dollars to trade Bitcoin? There was MTGOX, and they had a big account in Japan. And there was another exchange called Bitstamp, and they had a big account in Slovenia. I thought Slovenia sounded more dodgy than Japan, so I sent my money to Japan. So I sent some money to Mt. Gox. I bought my first Bitcoin. And then at the time, there was this futures exchange, had a futures contract that traded at a 200% per annum return, which means that I could buy Bitcoin, I could deposit some Bitcoin as margin on this exchange, I could sell a futures contract, basically locking in the value of Bitcoin, and my per annum return on my money was 2x. So I thought, wow, this is amazing. So I put this trade on, and I kept rolling my position, and I forgot about Bitcoin. October comes around, and I thought, okay, maybe I should withdraw some money from this Japanese exchange, MTGOX. So I put in my withdrawal request, and a week later I emailed support. I'm like, where's my money? They're like, oh, well, if you want your money back faster, you need to pay us a 5% bank charge to get it back. I was like, that sounds like bullshit, but I'd rather have 95% of my money than none of my money. So I said, fine, I'll pay the 5% charge. I said that. They said, okay, well, now you need to wait another 2 weeks to get your money back. At that point, I was like, this exchange is going down. And at that time, Bitcoin started rallying quite aggressively. And in China, you could actually sell Bitcoin at a 40% premium to what you could buy it for on the international market outside of China. So I got on a bus to Shenzhen, and with my passport, I faked an address, and I got a bank account in China. And I opened up exchange accounts all across China on the major exchanges. And I got my money out of Mt. Gox and made 30%. It was great. And I thought, this is great business. Let me just arbitrage between China and the rest of the world. So I started doing that for a few months. And then I was like, okay, I want to make a real business out of this Bitcoin thing. I know how to trade derivatives. The derivatives platform that I was trading on is pretty shitty. So let me create a better Wall Street version. So I hit up my old contacts in IT at Deutsche Bank and said, hey, I want to start this futures exchange. Are you interested? And he was like, no, but you should talk to my colleague, Ben. So I said, hey, Ben, I want to start this Bitcoin exchange. You want to meet for a drink? He said, yeah, sure. So we went to Red Bar, and I pitched him my idea to start a derivatives platform. And he was like, I'm in. But he was like, well, I don't know the first thing about web technology. So I said, okay, I'll cover that. I reached out to some of my friends, and I actually came to an event at the Hive, looking for one specific person. And he was actually sitting up here giving a talk for, I think, General Assembly on some sort of web dev thing. I came up to him afterwards. I said, I heard that you're into Bitcoin. You want to have a meeting, and I want to pitch you my idea to start this derivatives platform. He said, sure. I had a coffee with him the next day out in Cyberport, and I said, this is what we want to do. He said, I'm on board too. So the three of us started building BitMex with the premise that Wall Street was going to flood into Bitcoin, and they're going to want to trade the same types of products that I was trading at the bank. And so we were like, okay, let's do this. It took us about 11 months to build our exchange, and we went live in November of 2014 with this very professional Bitcoin product. And no one came for the first 6 months. So we're sitting there with an exchange that makes no money. We make no money. And so we said, well, we need to reevaluate what we're doing here. There are people who offer similar types of products, but are focusing on degenerate gamblers, aka retail traders in Bitcoin. So why don't we do the same? But we can do it better. So we said, okay, we're going to create the world's highest leveraged Bitcoin US dollar product, and we want to enable anyone who has Bitcoin to trade financial derivatives. And so that's where BitMex came from, where we are today. So today we have the world's most leveraged product to trade Bitcoin US dollars. You can trade Bitcoin with 100 times leverage on the most volatile asset in the history of the world. It's a lot of fun. And so this is our trading platform. We don't take Hong Kong dollars or US dollars like Ore over here, but we only take Bitcoin. And so to sign up for an account, just takes an email address. After you sign up, you're presented with a Bitcoin deposit address. Within 10 minutes, you're able to trade. We currently offer products on Bitcoin US dollar, Ethereum, which is one of the decentralized applications that Aurelian was talking about. Very exciting. We have a product on the Chinese stock market. You could speculate on the Chinese stock market with Bitcoin on BitMex. And Factum, which is another digital currency. And so from August of 2015 until today, we went from trading nothing to I think our highest volume day was around 25 or 30 million US dollars that went through the exchange in one 24-hour period. And now we're one of the top 10, 15 exchanges in the world by volume for the trading of Bitcoin. But we're not truly about just trading the Bitcoin US dollar exchange rate, because that's only one asset. You can't survive as an exchange trading one thing. And our complete thesis is that if you have Bitcoin, we can offer you the ability to access any type of financial product, because we can financially engineer the payoff of anything as long as the long side and the short side all come to the table with the same type of collateral, which is Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's great because we can take deposits 24/7, and we can get your money back any day of the week. Unlike lots of trading platforms which operate in a 5 days a week, 9 to 5 sort of regime. So this is the current BitMex platform. I think that's. And we recently won the Tech in Asia conference first prize in Singapore last week, so it's going well for us, and people are really getting attracted to the idea of trading other financial assets at a much lower cost using a digital currency. That's BitMex.